Suppose the government of India is thinking of constructing a dam in a mountain valley bound by forests and inhabited by ethnic communities. What rational policy should it resort to in dealing with unforeseen contingencies? See, this question is an applied question. This is kind of a debate which we study in environment versus development. Yes, so this debate is something which we keep on studying even in General Studies paper 3. But here it is asked in the context of paper 4. So what was coming to my mind is there are two things to be done. You have to construct a dam in a mountain valley. But there are ethnic communities, know the term ethnic communities, who are inhabiting those areas. So what a rational policy means, I thought that the word rational here would mean a more balanced policy that takes care of the interests of both the development as well as the environmental aspects. Environment here I also discussed about displacement, environmental damage, displacement, and culture of the ethnic community or life of the ethnic community. I felt these are some things which are just coming. Here I talked about energy. So I developed my argument, my rational policy based on these things in my mind, that adequate rehabilitation and resettlement program should be there for the ethnic communities. I opened the answer with the fact that first there has to be a reassessment of whether or not that particular mountain valley is the only one which is there for development. So the first option is, let's just find out कि यहाँ पे ही करना पड़ेगा क्या? Can we change the location? That was the first point. But then I also said that if it is compulsory that you have to work on the dam in that particular area, then you can move on with such that the design of the dam should be such that it should not harm the environment. An adequate rehabilitation, resettlement procedures for the ethnic communities, and ethnic communities should be brought on board. Ethnic communities, there could be a provision. I added one provision that allowed the ethnic community population to participate in the construction of dam, so that they are getting money for the labor work, and they feel that the dam which we are constructing, they are a part of that, and they are able to utilize the water and energy which will be generated from the dam. At the end of this answer, I just drew kind of a balance. So I had actually decided this in advance at my home, that if I face a question on balance between two things, then I will be drawing it, and I felt this is that answer where I could use this particular diagram. So I ended up balancing. I wrote different things that the very things that I have mentioned here, I mentioned it here in the balance, just to graphically represent my answer and to make it much more presentable. I just tried to make a kind of a balance here. Maybe it might have fetched for me a half mark more. Then moving on to B part, explain the process of resolving ethical dilemmas in public administration. Note the word explain, the process of resolving ethical dilemmas in public administration. You know what came to my mind when I read this question? I felt this question is asking you nothing but the theory of solving a case study. Because a case study is a dilemma, and it's a dilemma in public administration. So here they are trying to understand the process of resolving. So maybe the theoretical part and the practical part of it. So I just asked myself, if I get a case study, how do I solve it? And whatever framework that I had in my mind, I said I'll just use it here. So I started by saying that we'd first look into the ethical dilemma. We'll first find out what is the conflict of interest between, what are the two issues that need to be looked into. Then what are the stakeholders involved, whether people, whether they are children, women, whether they are poor, whether any person is a DM, STM, or a police officer or a doctor. What are the important people involved in this case? And then I also wrote that we could develop multiple options in order to find out the pros and cons of each option. So while I was answering this question, I just asked myself, how do I solve a case study? I first open up with the ethical dilemma, then I move on to tell them the stakeholders, then I move on to developing the options. So here I just explained it how we would do it, to develop the options, Then we'll analyze the pros and cons of each option, how it is positive, how it is negative, and then you suitably come to a conclusion by keeping in mind the rule of law, your duty of integrity and compassion. All of these things are something which you think and then you justify your solution. So that is how I felt that this answer could be written, and I wrote it suitably.